Okay. Well, I see you, your name out there. Very good. Very good. So how you doing?
Actually pretty good, Mike.
Good.
You check in with me a couple times a week, almost daily, and
No, it's not
this
always
week
daily.
has been, I said almost.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but yeah, this week's been kind of pretty good. Not as much stress.
Oh, good. Then let's move on. Um, Point of business here that we have. I got a question via email that I wanted to go over with you.
So we're gonna get under our email phase.
No, I'm just saying we get them. It's something that I forgot to ask you. We were on the phone, so I just thought so
I,
don't worry, forget it. It's gonna be easy. All right. So here it says, "Hey Mike, how you doing? Do you remember when?" And we don't need that part. Don't need that part. Here it is. I know that everybody in prison has a nickname. Mine was, and I don't know if he wants me to share that, so I may not share his. I know yours was Brother Mike, which you didn't like, but we don't get to pick our own nicknames. Do you remember Richard's nickname? And yes, I do, but I didn't share it with him because that may be a private thing to you that you may not want to share. Maybe build suspense for the next episode to see if it. But if you did want to share it, if you did want to share it, I would consider changing the name of the podcast to Brother Mike and your nickname.
No,
No, all right.
I'm not gonna go there. Well,
If you want to share it, that's fine. If not, I
no, no,
respect
no.
your
I
privacy.
don't have a problem sharing, but this is a true crimes
Yeah,
podcast,
the
and
true crime name.
we live the life. We can actually talk about this, do anything we damn want, talk about what we want. It's our content.
Right.
Um, but you, you dredged something up that I forgot all about on living that life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a nickname. Everybody does have a nickname.
Yeah.
Yours is reluctantly Brother Mike,
Right.
but
Correct.
it fits. It fits.
Oh,
Um, but the whole thing about this podcast, as a reminder to our tens of listeners, as you say,
right. Tens of listeners. Right.
um, that this is the Novaturients show. And again, as a reminder to our listening audience and our
You're
growing
not going to
fan
answer the
base.
question, are you? You're not going to. You don't. You just are going.
No, no, no.
You're
I'm just trying to
deflect.
recap that there shouldn't be a name change because again, it's about putting our dealing with our past that people are going to judge us as less than, something you and I expressed over
Right.
previous episodes.
Right.
And so we've got to come with this novaturient, which the key word here for me that got me all jazzed up about it when you told me about it was a powerful change
Right.
in one's life situation or behavior. So yes, we
There we go.
stick with
Right.
we don't go backwards with
All right.
the nicknames. And nickname was Lizard. I don't know if you heard something else, but for some reason that's the name that stuck from Lompoc to Taft.
And for the record, I never called you that to your face.
No,
All right.
never.
So never to your face. All right. So
Well, you took it as derogatory or what? I never did.
no, come on, that's a great nickname. But think of the name podcast would be Brother Mike and Lizard.
We can do something
Yeah,
on
maybe a
that. Okay,
spinoff.
it
Maybe a
is
spinoff.
yeah, it's catchy. Okay,
That'll be the
maybe
that'll be the
season two. If we, that's another thing we need to engage in comments.
yeah.
Again, going to the rabbit hole, but Mike, let's catch that rabbit. Um, I want to gauge from interest since people have really been responding to you and I on comments and comments in my social media. Um, season one. We're going to do season one. We're going to break it up into season two, or are we just going to keep rolling? So I like people to know. But most important thing is like and subscribe. Thought I'd never be saying that too, but
Yeah.
that's one way I have not been promoting our channel is by asking people to like and subscribe.
Right. Okay. So moving on then. We've done
Catching that
all
rabbit.
the business is complete. I wanted to talk about something at the beginning here. And I think it is it's relevant. Okay. I do read the comments. All right. Most famous people, oh, well, I'm not famous, So I read the comments and actually think, this is kind of a good point. We had a comment about what is it like to be indicted, basically. Could take them through the process, I think it was. I should have brought that up, but I'm old, forget about it. So it's basically take them through the process. Well, then we get these stories about Hunter Biden, about Trump, about all these things, indictments, plea deals, this, that, and the other thing. And I got triggered a little bit. I went back to 2015 when they were having the Republican National Convention, and they started this chant of lock her up about Hillary. And I just found, look, I don't have any kind of opinion politically. I just don't. I have no control over, so I have no opinion, right? I believe in right and wrong. I think everybody does right and wrong. Okay. The one rule that I have is everybody lies, right? I just really believe that. And it can be lies of omission. You're trying to be nice, whatever. Well, this was just mean. This was just mean in a political environment. It's mean now when they're demeaning the president, demeaning the president's son, demeaning a former president. All these people say, I want to lock people up. They should just lock them up. Let me ask you something. You people who want to lock everybody up, you ever been locked up?
That's the deal there, Mike.
You ever gone through that process? Because before you start calling, look, there's some people that need to be locked up. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's guys that I met, I was glad we're locked up, keep my family safe. All right. But we're just defaulting now to lock everybody up, impeach everybody, do all these things. And I thought it would be interesting because both of us went to trial. Both of us were arrested kind of dramatically, and went through. I mean, you'd never been to jail before. I'd never been to jail before. And so there is this shock and awe that occurs. And I thought it might be nice if people want to, true crime, I want to hear about stories and all this. Well, we're going to tell you a story. I think if Rich goes along with this, we're going to tell a story about exactly what it's like to get busted and to go through the process. Now, this may be a two-part episode, but essentially to share this kind of story, you got to be indicted to be invited, right? And so we want to take you through this process. We're going to take you through the process. We're going to start with Rich because mine's a little more complicated. This may have to be a two-parter or something like that. We'll see. And I just want you to take step by step. I'm going to try and keep you on track. No rabbit holes, no gopher holes, nothing like that. Let's give them what Jack Webb used to say in Dragnet, just the facts. All right.
Just facts, man.
Here's what it's like. All right. So I want you to, for a second, to just suspend political stuff, suspend the keyboard warrior nonsense, all of that, and please listen or watch, depending on what you're doing, and kind of understand the process, so that when you may consider, oh, that guy needs to be locked up or she needs to be locked up, here's the process. All right. And here's what's going to happen. So, Rich, let's start with you. And then maybe, if we get through that, I'll go to a little bit of mine, but mine's a little more complicated because it involved a lot of money and stuff like that. So talk about when you first got busted, when you first were taken into custody.
Oh, wow. February 19th, 20. No, I'm sorry. Oh my God. I'm living in the now. 1993. I was on my way to Chicago. Being a smart ass, sophisticated, so to speak, well-trained, international drug smuggler, mule, just like in that movie with Clint Eastwood, The Mule. That was my life story. I was an international drug smuggler. Hang on a sec. Okay. So I just wanted to give a little background about how I got here to today. Back then, you got to be indicted to be invited to this party. Okay. And current events, the subject matter is really relevant to our experience. But my journey into true crimes, or the crime aspect of it, began, Mike, when I was barely 22 years old. I got recruited uh, because I knew somebody that was dating somebody that was part of the Cali cartel in Colombia, one of Colombia's biggest cartel outside of Escobar. But it wasn't until recently that I realized the interest in my type of crime, or a true crime story, because of that the popular hashtag that Dateline and NBC, everybody's using.
Yeah, we're all aware. You got recruited.
Yeah.
Now what happens?
So I got recruited, but I did that since from the age of 22. By the age of 30, I got busted. So I did it for about 8 years. And again, recruited, trained, sophisticated. I was working with, it wasn't until Netflix, um, that the Narcos Mexico 3, that they did a little part where they travel from Mexico down into the Colombia, but they meet with my guys. And I always said that my guys were sophisticated gentlemen. They were businessmen. They ranged anywhere from CPA accountants to lawyers, doctors, and police officers. But anyways, they trained me in the ways of smuggling. But not only, and there were never any weapons involved, in no violence, no weapons, just men making money. But that part about making money that I is a misnomer, um, is that we also specialize in counterfeit money. So not only was I smuggling cocaine, but counterfeit money as well, into the millions and millions of dollars. So February 19, 20, 1993. It was a cold day in Chicago, still winter. I remember taking, again, trained guy. I don't want to fly. I don't want to go through the airport security checkpoints. And this is way before 9/11 that we talked about all this stuff. That's when all the changes, but everything was open, but they were on to us as far as the drug interdiction task force, which were, in my case, local police, Chicago Police Department, working with the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration. So DEA agents. Not only that, I got hot and heavy on me, the Secret Service. Yeah, those guys that guard the president, I had made their top list of most wanted from the Secret Service because of the counterfeit money. Secret Service, when they're not doing duties for presidential stuff, they're actually working for the Treasury, U.S. Treasury Department. So counterfeit money goes right in there. So that was all part of my true crimes. I got busted there, but I remember getting off the train, and they were there, and they were just asking random, it was a random interdiction, and somehow I fit a profile. They had ran my name and ran the fact that I bought a cash ticket one way into New York. Never made it to New York because I got busted in Chicago. But I remember it being 8 degrees out. Never in my life have I, being born and raised Californian, have I experienced such cold winter. 8 degrees above zero was the temperature that day that I got arrested. So I got arrested at the Amtrak train station. Um, Again, being a trained smuggler, I never asked questions. I never peeked. This My bags were always packed for me. I traveled that way, and it was a matter of being trusted. I trust them, they trust me, and uh, they said that if I ever were to get caught, I could tell the truth. I don't know anything. I did, though. Eventually, like I said, I had an 8-year relationship with this cartel, and I got to know the inner workings. But I was just a low-level player, just a smuggler. That's all I was. Okay. And I can talk about these things because, again, and I did the time for it. They're a defunct organization now. They don't exist. And three, Netflix, I'm sorry, the Narcos Mexico 3 talked about them. Another podcaster, friend of ours, Michael Franzese, just shameless plug there. He's got his Mobster Stories podcast. He interviewed the son of one of the bosses I worked for. So there's this interest in the cartel, but and that's why I started talking about it, because people are trying to constantly dig up dirt on me. And so this is some of the shocking dirt that they're going to find, but they're not doing any great scientific uh, search on me, because it's public record. You know what I did. I
Okay,
can't deny it.
let's not get there. Let's not get there yet.
So that's how I
Let's
got here.
You
I
got
got
busted.
busted.
It's 8 degrees. What's the first thing that happens to you?
They asked to search my luggage, and we went back and forth. Eventually, they said that I said yes because it was a warrantless search, meaning without a search warrant. And that was one thing I took all the way to the Supreme Court. So in this legalese stuff that we're going to address today, there's a lot of application about what happened to me, what you're trying to get at, the nuts and bolts. And I learned the legal system, trying to fight my own case for 15 years. Um, so that day, I was thrown in there right off the bat before you get indicted or anything like that. They tell you you're looking at 40 years. They call up the U.S. attorney. They appoint a judge, a magistrate judge, to hold bail hearings and stuff like that. Magistrate judge does just that. The bail hearings and the preliminary legal stuff before you're assigned a judge. You know, so part of that legal system involves in the feds, U.S. Marshals, DEA agents, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Everything's U.S. in front of it. It's like they proudly put those symbols in front of you, U.S. In fact, that I didn't know how to take that when I first saw my case, United States of America versus Richard Maldonado. I'm sure you had the same, U.S. versus Michael Savage. Savage, right? So, anyways,
Yep.
I didn't know what to think. Uh, it's like my life flashed before me. I was done. Never have I've been to scenarios where I've been shook down at various border crossings in Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico City. They really rang me through the ringer. Uh, I really thought I was going away when I got to Mexico City. Um, but again, in my trained mind, I didn't want to fly. I took the train. I figured that would be and that was the worst. You know, it, again, my best laid plan, Mike, got me busted.
Yeah,
You
good
know,
plan. I know, I get it. I get it completely. You're thinking about all this stuff, and you go back and you look at it again and think, I could have rented a car, or something
yeah,
like that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Back when I got busted in '93, the drug and addiction was a big thing. There was war on drugs, from the moral majority, that the presidential, the mandatory minimums. That's another thing we're going to address in probably part two, sentencing. I was looking at mandatory minimum at least 10 years, and they couldn't go below that unless, circumstances changed. And that's why I proudly said I did not cooperate. I held my mud. And even though they said I could potentially look at 40 years, and I told my family about it, this is again the first day that you're getting that. I get thrown into the after they uncovered the drugs in my luggage, which was, they said, a street value of $1,200,000 worth of coke on me. That's what got me so much time. So I get in there, I go through the process. Uh, my first bunkie or cellmate, 2-man cells, bunk beds. This guy ended up killing himself, committing suicide, hanging himself 2 weeks into my stay. And yeah, he was a bookie for the mob, and he didn't want the government to seize everything because he had told me he just had a 4-month-old baby. So That's why he killed himself. So the family can keep all the money and the feds can, get a pasta from Google from him. That was a way out. But it was really treacherous in those early days because then I met another guy uh going to trial. They were all huddled up in the corner and they were talking. These guys are youngsters in their 20s. I just barely turned 30, so but they were young and they determined, okay, out of the four of us or five of us, we're going to walk. Who wants to do the time? So the guy nominated himself to go through the process. And guess what? They all got bail, except for the one guy. That one guy, a month later, hung himself. So I started getting accustomed to hangings because the feds aren't playing when they hand out sentences. In fact, I had a good drug dealer friend of mine, uh, uh, Rich, why are you doing this? He says, the feds hand out time like candy, and it's not candy. It's significant amounts of time. Be careful. He always warned me, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the other reason why I didn't cooperate. Getting back to this snit rat thing, which is
Yeah, let's not go there
confusing.
any further.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's not
No,
go
no,
there any
I
further.
know. But in the
Let's fast
face,
forward
in
a
the
little bit
face
now.
of all that, looking at the amount of time, I was looking at 10 to 40 years. The only thing I told him that I would do was accept responsibility for my own actions. I'm not going to bring anybody down. No one twisted my arm to do what I did. I was being paid money. I took the job. I got caught. Oh well. So, uh, um, then you go through that, and eventually you get indicted, and that indictment, that's what bothered me. Secret grand jury proceedings are being held against me. That's what my attorney told me. And I'm like, what the hell? And then they're flying people, family members, my living girlfriend at the time, um, flying people to Chicago to testify against the government spending money. But another thing I want to talk about, the reason why I talked about the counterfeit money and being on I'm sorry, the Secret Service's most wanted list, just like the FBI's most wanted, is because of the counterfeit money. Um, after I got arrested, there were some packages that were delivered to two residences that I was staying at, and in there was the counterfeit money being delivered FedEx. The Secret Service intercepted these packages, and that's the reason why they flew people out to Chicago to testify on the counterfeit money side, which is leading up to, as you know, Mike, a superseding indictment.
Right. So before we get there, I want to talk just for a second about grand juries. Right.
Yes, please.
All right. Grand juries are a group of people that are selected, sometimes at large, sometimes by recommendation of judges, that sort of thing. They are brought together and they convene. And then a prosecutor, federal prosecutor, will present a case against someone. There's no defense in this. Your attorney doesn't go in there and defend you. Sometimes the subject will be invited to whatever reason to testify, which is all, you're there without a lawyer and people like. So there, don't think of a grand jury as being like a jury that you would see in a courtroom. Now, is it right or wrong? I don't know. I'm just trying to explain what's going on here. So they can call witnesses. And when they call the witnesses in a secret grand jury, they don't always have to tell you who they are, what they're saying, or any of that kind of stuff at all. That's why it's called a secret grand jury, a secret indictment, all this stuff. So understand that there is no defense here. Several lawyers have often said a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. All right, that just with the idea
under conspiracy laws, yes.
With the idea that there's no defense. There is no defense. They're only hearing one side of the story. Okay. Again, I'm not saying whether it's fair or unfair. I just want you to understand, don't confuse grand jury with a court jury where they get to hear the defense and go back and forth with witnesses and cross-examine and all. That doesn't happen there. And so as a result, a lot of times, and I will say the majority of times, they will return an indictment. In some areas, it's called a true bill, particularly if it's a state type situation where they have a grand jury, but they have an indictment. Now, what they will often do is take this grand jury, get some smaller charges that are severe enough to lock a person up, and then they'll continue their proceedings. Okay, continue. And so they can get new information and come out with what Richard was pointing out is a superseding indictment. Okay, so I just kind of want to give you a brief overview of what a grand jury is about. And Rich, if I left anything out, feel free. But I just kind of wanted to bring that up.
I'll go right now. The grand jury stems from they got to put together the prosecutors, in this case, the United States attorneys, and there's bunches of them. There's offices in each district. Each court has maybe 20, 30 U.S. attorneys. So anyways, an assigned prosecutor will convene a grand jury, which is just a jury of our peers, ordinary people. So the reason why we want to address
let me
because
first just a second. Let me just interrupt. I apologize for interrupting, but you said of our peers, and that's another fallacy that I think exists within juries. They're jury of your peers.
To say that.
It's better to just say fellow citizens, because unless you have drug dealers sitting on a jury or a grand jury, they're not really of your peers, if you understand what I'm saying. So we can continue on. I like to bring that point out every so often. So
thank you, Mike, for that clarification, because at that moment that I said our peers, I struggled with that. I really did. But we want to be proper here, but your alternative is a proper citizens. Okay. Because they really don't have an understanding of the thing. And that's why I took it to trial. But again, the grand jury, the citizens, community of the community, wherever you get arrested at, they hear these charges that the prosecutor will bring up. They go to their handbook and he qualifies for this and that. But I think this has to do with the Fourth Amendment. Your right to be free of liberty, life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness. Constitutional right. Before they deprive you of that, you got the Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. You got the Fourth Amendment right to not be deprived, or in your case, maybe seized upon your property, personal stuff, your wealth, assets. But the Fifth Amendment, that everybody has to understand, we all have a right to due process. So in this case, you're going to hear certain people that we're going to talk about with ongoing current events are presumed innocent until they go to a jury trial and get convicted or acquitted. Okay, it's going to be two things. So again, the grand jury will hear charges brought up by the prosecution, who wants to charge you, because that's what the indictment includes, all the charges against you. But you're presumed, apparently, innocent until you exercise your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights to go to, especially your Sixth Amendment right, to an attorney and go to trial and confront the witnesses against you. You have every right to do that. So that's why you're proven or presumed innocent until you go through the ringer of all this process.
I kind of have to stop there also and think, okay, before I got busted, did I give people the presumption of innocence when I heard they were indicted or going to trial? My answer is a resounding no. Oh,
right. Yeah.
They know what they're doing. Now, again, we're not defending our crimes. We just want to explain to you that it ain't all law and order out there in the sense of, the way it's portrayed on TV or in movies. It's a system that's based upon merit. The more convictions someone gets, the faster they're going to get promoted. Okay. So what are they after? They're after convictions. How do you get convictions? By getting people to plead guilty. And if they plead guilty, there's another notch on the gun belt. Up we go. And that's how it works. It's promotion based, just like it would be in a company or anywhere else. It's promotion based on that. So when there are people who decide, I'm not going to plead out, I'm going to go to trial, it can be upsetting to them because you're not making it easy. But now you have the full weight of the federal government that is now going to fall upon you. And unless you have great resources, you ain't going to win. All right. So with that cheery note of how great everything was, let's kind of move this along just a little bit because we don't want to stretch the episode out too long. I don't know. People are saying, this is true crime. This is boring. No, it's not boring. No, you're going through it.
No,
So,
we lived it, and therefore we're qualified. And people have requested of me, hey, can you guys talk about what's going on today and break it down? So let's move along then into our
yeah,
current events. And the reason why, again, we're qualified, both Mike and I, to be
I
able
think
to
they get that.
expound
They
on
get
this
that.
subject. Yeah.
They get that. Okay. So let's move on. You got busted. You got an indictment. They start flying people out, and you're given the special award of what? A superseding indictment. Talk about that.
Right. Well, those are extra charges. Once I was had in the system by the U.S. Department of Justice and assigned a FBI, I forget what the number is. It's called. It's not talking about our register number, from the court. Some kind of criminal index number. The Secret Service. Oh shit! He popped up on the radar. That's our guy. So they flew witnesses that were recipients of the counterfeit money and tried to bring extra charges on top of my drug smuggling case for 1.2 million on the cocaine. So again, superseding indictment is just an addendum, and it's an add-on to what's already occurring. And that's what it is. It's just an added indictment of more charges coming.
And our
And
people
that's
that we were
it. That's all
mentioning,
you know.
that's what we are mentioning at the beginning with Trump and all the other people who are getting indicted. Don't be surprised if you see a superseding indictment come out. Don't be
Oh no,
surprised if
we
there's more
have
charges.
we have
Yeah. No, I'm
we
saying
have.
as time goes on, because this is a complicated case and it's going to be very sticky. So I'm just saying you may see that in the future and just a continuation
Well, I
of
mean, for the listeners that
charges.
are hearing this in the news, the Florida already has a superseding indictment in the documents case. If we're talking about documents case, superseding indictment there, they're expecting another superseding indictment to come out of Washington, D.C., because unlike what happened in Georgia, Trump and his cronies, there's 19 or 18 co-defendants, right?
Okay, let's back up for a second. Obviously, you have just revealed yourself as to how you feel about Donald Trump.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just you used the word
Hey,
cronies. What are you talking?
okay, okay, okay. All
Yeah.
right,
All
all
right. So
right. I'm
let's
sorry.
move on with
Look,
your story. Let's move on with your story. Let's not get political here. All right. Let's not.
disclaimer here. This disclaimer here. We're trying to do this without getting political. Me and Mike did this, agreed to this, and we're no wise making this political. It's left wing, right wing, same bird.
This
That's the
is
way I see
just the
it.
facts. Just the
Just the
facts of how
facts.
things
Just the
work.
fact.
All right.
So, anyways, he's got 18 co-defendants on an indictment. Okay, people that are charged again through this process. Probable cause. So the media circus of court of public opinion has to understand this is not a witch hunt. This is not politically motivated. This were a grand jury of people in each of the four cases were citizens that got together, don't know anything from Adam, and were heard charges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they've never
Heard,
heard of the guy.
well, no, no, no. I'm talking about the concepts of
Oh,
what is
okay.
involved here, the
Yeah.
criminal charges. So you have to do this before you put somebody's name in the mud. You have to go through this process of a grand jury. So a public grand jury, although secret at the time, will inform people, hey, you're the subject of a grand jury hearing. That means you can expect to be indicted and charges are going to be brought up against. Then you got to answer for your actions. You have a right to due process. People can't just fling these things on me, put me in a straitjacket and say, I did it. So again, this is the thing where Mike's talking about. Don't tip your hat the way you feel, because it's all open ended right now. There's nothing etched in stone except for the indictment based on federal laws and the Constitution.
All right.
Okay, so
He's had
those are the
enough press.
charges.
Let's move on to you. All right. Let's follow your thing. You got your superseding indictment. Then what happened?
Uh, well, they try to get me to plead guilty, and they wouldn't not offer me anything less than oh 15 years. What I got. I'm like, well, I don't see a need to talk to you guys then. They wanted to talk to me because they know that I'm part of a bigger thing, and you don't have this for personal use, this amount of drugs. And they knew about the counterfeit money and the DEA, or I'm sorry, the not only
Secret
the
Service.
DEA, the Secret Service coming after me and wanting the blood from there too. They were really pissed off because I slipped out of their hands several times. They even had my passport because I left it behind somewhere, and they're like, I could just imagine them after they pat searched me down. They raided a place that I was at, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" We lied about it, but I remember going to the condo that day and telling my people they're cartel that
Can we get
I
your
quit.
story?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
cover this in a wrap up episode or so. All the stories. We'll get to the stories, folks. For
Well, I'm just
now,
saying that they were pretty bent out of shape
yeah,
that I kept slipping out of their hands
we get
even
it. They were
during
pissed.
a
Okay, we
raid.
get it. They were pissed.
Yeah, so they were after me, but eventually, um, it was amazing thing. The witnesses that they flew out were people personally beloved, that knew me very well. And eventually, I saw the transcripts, the grand jury transcripts after the fact. My attorneys, and then I got to see. So people were speculating on my family side. They were pissed at certain people that they had no choice. I mean, you're threatening the mother of my child. My daughter's barely 4 months old, and they're flying her out there and telling her she's an accomplice to all this. So they're trying to break her too, and that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to sweat
All
these
right.
other
Leave
co-defendants.
them alone. Leave that case alone. We are talking about your case. All right. So you're
Got
indicted,
it.
got superseding indictment. You're not going to plead out. The government is not pleased about that. And so you go to trial. And what happens then?
Well, anyways, I saw the transcripts. None of the witnesses against me said anything bad about me. They didn't know. I was trained not to know. So therefore, I couldn't tell anybody. They were just, at the wrong place at the right time. That's it. So the government decided not to bring that case. And I went to trial on my cocaine smuggling. And that's what I got convicted of. Uh, another thing I want to point out, and this will get to the sentencing phase, but right now, the news media to these legalese type correspondents, news course, they haven't been to jail, so they're only able to speak on a certain perspective. And one thing that everyone's leaving out on this, and when it comes to the feds, Mike, I'm sure you're going to agree with me, is I think your case was the number was a lot higher, but they speak in months, not years.
Right.
When I got convicted and sentenced a couple months later, he says, I order you committed to the custody of the United States Federal Bureau of Prisons for 180 months. What is that? 180 months. I'm trying to calculate in my damn head. I know what 120 is because
Yeah.
that's 10 years. And
Memorize
that's what I
that.
was looking at. But the 180, that floored me. I was stunned. What does that mean? And I leaned into my attorney. What the fuck's going on? Don't worry, I'll explain it to you when in the holding cell because you're not going home.
You're not going
What? Yeah. So, anyway, through this process too, before trial, we had a pre-trial. We had a
suppression.
suppression hearing.
Right.
I was going to say suspension, but the suppression hearing to suppress the evidence against me. If I had won that, based on my Fourth Amendment illegal arrest and a seizure, because all this took place without a warrant, folks, and we had to have a 8-day hearing on the nuances of did he say no or did he say yes, and we were stunned. If the government wants you, like Mike said, well, they're going to get you no matter what, and it doesn't matter. It's like the good old boys club. They all agree you're going down
Yep.
and they'll do anything. And I think they grandstand, they show off. You think that they're leaning on your side as a possible escape hatch out of this? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You got this. And that's the only reason why I fought my case because um I got jammed up at the train station without a search warrant. They just picked me out of the crowd and said, "You come here. We need to look through your luggage. And I'm like, no. Do we have your consent? No. I kept saying no. But the court ultimately ruled, and the reason why my case is public is because it teeters around in public places. How much can the cops, mess with you
Yeah.
without any warrant or probable cause? Again, the grand jury thing, probable cause. What is it they got on you reasonably to detain you and arrest you and book you?
Right.
That's where it all goes back to. So, anyways, I fought my case all the way, and I really thought that the odd thing is, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go home, and I'm 6 months into my sentence. I go, yep, learn my lesson. God, if you just let me go, I'll never do this again. Blah blah blah, and it didn't happen. I ended up getting convicted. But again, the nuances in my case were, did I give consent to a warrantless search?
Yeah.
And I didn't. And the amazing thing is that both DEA agents and the Chicago police officer, in this case, again, interdiction, dual agencies to give jurisdiction to the feds. If they're going to be posted up somewhere in a city, they got to have jurisdiction. So that's why they align themselves with local police to give them that jurisdiction. But anyways, both witnesses against me, it was amazing, Mike. They got in the witness stand and the judge asked them, so how did he indicate no? And according to the transcripts, when I read them, they couldn't answer that question. They could not answer how I said yes to their search. So that's why I ended up appealing it, but they all ruled that, yeah, whatever happened that day, the guy said yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he gave consent.
Yeah. No
So
witnesses
no
were there.
case. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
But again, I don't want us to come across as though we're trying to say we're innocent. We both admit we're guilty. All the what I want you to understand, and I try not to talk to the audience terribly often, but I really want you to understand this, is that what you see on TV with these supposed based on true crimes, and you have the lawyers who are trying to do all these things and the prosecute, it's all nonsense. What's true is you got people who are trying to make a living, who are trying to climb up the ladder like anybody else would. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying that this is how it happens. And when you've got all the money in the federal government to go against what small percentage of people go to trial, if I had known that, I would have been less excited about going to trial. I wasn't excited anyways, but that's just so that you understand. And even if one of the people who was indicted for the fourth time this past week has a lot of money, he doesn't have government money. All right. And so what I'm saying is this is that people don't like it when you go to trial in the federal government. I don't know about state. I know feds, they don't like it, but they do like it because now I can make a splash. So Rich got convicted, and next week, I don't know if I'm going to do another one for a while. All right, I may have flashbacks from prison with you talking all this stuff. So the deal is the next time, we're going to talk about my case. I race through it much faster than Richard does because it's very uncomfortable for me. It still has these very uncomfortable things.
Well, how many charges did you have, Mike? Just start off right there.
101.
Indictment.
101.
101. Okay.
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why. But at any rate, we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a thing called pre-sentence report. And then we're going to talk about sentencing, what that's like. Now, for those of you
Mike, one thing we forgot is enhancements.
Well, we'll get to that in sentencing, won't we?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I just wanted to put it out there.
Well, it's out there. All right. So we're also going to take a look at this idea of what it means to stand before a hostile judge, knowing that nothing good is coming your way.
Wait a minute.
We have
story.
That we have that experience. All right. We know when sentencing comes, nothing good's going to happen. All right. The judge does not have your best interest in heart. He's looking at justice. And so, again, not defending ourselves. It's just, would you really wish some of this stuff on the people that you really want to go to prison? And what does that say about you if you want people to go to prison? Now, again, with the exceptions that there are people who deserve it. I get it. But when you're saying it about people, next time, we're going to talk about humiliation and what it's like to be publicly humiliated. All right. So that's all I got. That's all I got. I'm not going to get into any of my stuff today, but we'll talk a little bit about it next week, or whenever we meet again and kind of go
Next
from there.
episode.
Yeah. So what's your positive take from this, pal? All the
Well,
what was the positive stuff there?
you wanted to avoid the subject about flashbacks, and you did it to me right in the beginning with the nickname stuff. Somebody totally forgot,
Yeah.
so that was an immediate flashback. That's why I stumbled. If you look at my I'm trying to figure what the hell is Mike doing here? We
The
didn't
guy
even talk
asked.
about this.
The guy asked. What do you want me to
His
do?
emails, I should have known. I should
Yes.
have known. I get nervous when you tell me we got an email.
Why?
There hasn't been one positive yet, except for the comments. Again, comment, subscribe, and like, because it's all good stuff. I like it. Whether it's a constructive criticism, which we really welcome. We're not perfect here. We're guilty, guys. We're guilty, but we're not changing our names. I can't,
Yeah.
public record. But we do change the names of those that are guilty on this podcast. So
And you'll be able to contact us at the Novaturients podcast at gmail.com. The Novaturients podcast at gmail.com. You'll probably see a little banner on the bottom here if I remember to add it, because Richard just won't do it. And that's pretty much it, right? Can I go now? Are we done?
No. I just wanted, my little dig in here is because you said something, and I think everybody caught it. That you might not, talk about this on the next episode, or might not do a next episode.
No.
I was saying I know we're men of our word. You're next.
Let me tell you something.
You're next.
Let me tell you something I learned from my kids. I really like raw oysters. You like raw oysters? A little hot sauce on them.
Oh yeah, and lemon.
Yeah. So we were at Disney World with them when they were little, 8, 9, something like that. I don't recall.
Florida. Disney
Yeah,
World?
in Orlando. Yeah. And I was eating raw oysters, and I challenged my son to eat a raw oyster.
How old was he at the time?
8, 9. I mean, I started when I was like 6. I grew up in Florida. I love those things, right?
So you put an 8-year-old up to a challenge.
Yeah. I'm not saying I was father of the year. I'm just saying I wasn't going to have him use the hot sauce, or at least not much of it, but I just wanted to try it. And so he turned to his sister and said, "I'll do it if you'll do it." And she goes, "Okay." So here comes the oyster.
How old is the sister?
8, 9. I don't know. They're a couple of years apart. I don't even keep track.
Oh, okay. All right, go on.
They're adults.
My point.
No, I don't worry about it.
I got it.
So I get one for him. He gets it in his mouth and makes the big mistake of chewing it too many times. And he's kind of makes all these faces. Finally gets it down. He finally gets it down, right? Turns to his sister, says, "Your turn." She says, "I'm not going to do it." And I said, "Okay, not going to do it." So that's addressing your thing.
Is that what you're doing to me?
Told you, but who knows? Who knows?
Because I went first. You see how that went. Now you get to gauge.
Yeah. See what the comments are and see if I get another email or not. All right.
All right, guys.
Comment,
email Mike, because he does read all the comments. So to be continued.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.